It's past 5. Let's like get this party rolling. Okay, so today is Thursday, April 16th, day after tax day. Did you guys get your taxes in?
Yes.
No.
Leah, behind the ball. Okay, so I was sent this email by Liz Rosati, the chair of the graphic design department, and I wanted to share this with you. I posted a link to this email in the Q&A forum in Moodle. There is a series of, hi Ryan, can I help you with anything? How are you? Good. So there is a Electronic Document Scholarship Foundation, okay? And it's a nonprofit that engages in people in the document and graphic communications industry. And they have a series of different scholarships that are available to students. Oh, sorry, Caesar. Bummer, dude.
What does that mean?
It means out of order.
Oh, that.
Yeah. You just confused him major, apparently. What does that mean?
No, like the lock.
Yeah, it's out of order.
Automatically unlock.
Yeah. Just sit at a different machine today. Okay, anyway, so there's scholarships available to students, and you can see here's a list of a bunch of different scholarships that are available, and you can click a link and you can follow through to see what the application looks like and the types of different scholarships that are available to students. So if any of you guys, maybe all of you, if you're eligible, should think about applying for scholarships for graphic communications. These scholarships are in place to support students just like you, so it's a good opportunity to try to get a little bit of funding to help you continue with your college education, okay? So that link's in the Q&A forum. And then the other thing that I posted in Q&A today is this type cheat sheet, and I just think this is like the bee's knees right here because it shows you a guide to a bunch of different typographic characters and then how you can correctly use them. So here's an example. It's telling you quotes and apostrophes, like how you properly use them. You can copy and paste if you want. It also gives you the keyboard shortcuts to create these characters. So it tells you all about quotes, what's the difference between a smart quote and a dumb quote, when to use everything. It's a really great. And then here's a whole thing on hyphens. Lydia, remember we were talking about hyphens last week? Right here. It shows examples of how you should do it. And how you utilize all these dashes, again with copy and paste and shortcut options. And then one that like always is tricky, you know, little things like these glyphs here where you have a copyright or registered trademark. And then there's also accented and non-English characters. So just the other day I was trying to do, what is it called, a tilde on an ene, right? Is that how you say it? Anyway, I was like, I cannot figure out how to do it. So here you can figure out how to get that done. Option plus N, and then you hit the letter that you're trying to accent. So that's kind of cool. So that's in there. You guys should all bookmark that. Okay. So Riley, you were not here last week, but I did a lot of emphasizing on the importance of the portfolio, okay? So you guys were all given your extra credit animation assignment and your regular animation assignment. The animation assignment was due today, the rocket ship. Did you guys do that?
How do we turn in the other one?
What?
How do we turn in the extra cred?
You can email it to me, that's fine. I don't know how, John had alerted me that you had tried to upload.
Yeah.
He knew that you were trying to upload extra credit. So how did you do it?
I could have put it in the same link for the assignment.
But you can only upload one file at a time.
No, I upload both.
You uploaded both? Okay,
Yeah.
well, let me look at it. Everybody else did that too?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. If you could upload both, then that's good.
What if I just showed you mine Actually, no.
Right this second, that would be not a good time, but we can look at all of them later as a class. So if you upload it to the appropriate Moodle section, then I can download them as a collective unit and we can watch them together.
Alright, I have it on my phone. I'm gonna figure it out. Got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's not figure it out right now though, okay?
Okay.
Phones away. Beep boop boop beep bop. Thank you. I don't lecture for very long because I know the attention span, but we want to focus while we have a chance so I don't have to repeat myself. Okay. So, like I was saying, portfolio coming up very, very soon. So this week you're going to be given an assignment called Telling a Story with Line. This assignment is a little bit complex, and many of you guys are going to want to start it tonight because I'm going to be asking you to set it up with interactivity. And as we've been kind of playing with a little bit of interactivity in class, this is going to be a more meaty interactive assignment, and it will also be a stepping stone into your portfolio, okay? Because I do give you the option to do it in print or interactive, both the Telling a Story with Line and your final portfolio, but you have to think about what it is that you want to do in order to get that done. So final portfolios are due on May 7th at the beginning of class at 5 p.m. That means you come to class with it turned in already. If you have a printed portfolio, you bring it to class, and then you're going to present your final portfolio on the 7th to class. We do not meet for a final in this class. So the last official day of class is May 7th, and that's when we will be done. Okay? Yes, Liam?
What is for the interactive, is that the Swift format or?
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so your final portfolio assignment is officially assigned to you next week, and we'll go over that in more detail. But I want you guys to be aware of the fact that you need to start thinking now about what it is that you're going to be doing. How are you tying your final portfolio together? What is the theme that's going to be underlying all of your assignment? Okay. So I showed you guys some examples last week of interactive portfolios and of printed portfolios. I made the week open next week so you guys can see the rest of the semester out on Moodle. Start looking at these and getting ideas. And you can see how there is a theme that's incorporated and is consistent throughout all of the pages of the portfolio, whether that's interactive or in print. So think about things that have been a central theme of your work. You need to include all of the assignments from this class over the course of the semester. Emily had a good point last week, and that was what about the animation assignment and what about the, what was the other one? Animation and
Telling a story with a line.
in the Telling a Story with a Line, because I think that's going to be interactive. So the way it works is that the animation assignment is this little rocket ship. You do not have to put the rocket ship in. But if you want to showcase your extra credit animation that you did, you can do frames, or you can think of a creative way to embed it into your interactive portfolio. Okay? And the same thing with Story with Line, you can embed it. Okay? So start thinking about that. Is there any questions about when the portfolio is due? Is there any questions about the presentation of the portfolio? Yes, Liam?
I'm just curious, does it have to be material from this class or can it be any material in our portfolio?
It has to be this class, but I am open to you adding additional items to your portfolio if you are interested from outside of class.
Cool. Especially
Especially if it's something that you feel strongly about and you think it adds to your final portfolio. I'm okay with that. A lot of students like the idea of doing that. But it has to be everything in class. You can't just pick two things and have that be,
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions?
So it's only the assignments?
Only the assignments, not the exercises. Unless you want to put the exercises in, but that's not required. Most of them are, not that creative necessarily, but I know like the tracing the lemon or the koi, some students like to put that in. So I'm open to you guys doing stuff like that as well, but it's not required. Okay. The other thing is that you can choose to put your process in, like your sketches and everything that you do to get to where you're going to be with your final piece. You can do that. And you can also have a description about the assignment. You can talk about your process in writing, like with a narrative, like we do in this class. In the real world, with a portfolio, sometimes you don't have a chance to sit in front of somebody and explain your work. So if you have a short paragraph explaining what it is that you are accomplishing with your design, you might have an upper hand over somebody else because someone can say, oh, I understand why they did it this way now. Or they can see that you thought through the process. So always think about that. And then how many of you guys are interested in going to that portfolio day on May 2nd? Okay. Have you signed up?
I'm volunteering for it.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Liam?
Yeah, it just depends on my car and shape for it.
Carpool. Are you going, Riley?
I have work.
Okay. Lydia? What was that? Okay. So it is a fun day, and you don't have to present your work. You can go in as an observer, or if you're interested, you can volunteer, and then you can go for free and see how it goes. But I think it's a good experience because you see students from other schools. You get to see how people are presenting their portfolios in creative ways. Because I assume many of you guys have not seen a portfolio presented outside of seeing something on the internet. So if you see something that's printed, you might get an idea. If you see students or how they're presenting it, like on a computer and stuff like that.
Do we have to have our midterm in our portfolio?
Oh yeah, that was the question. The midterm. That's what you asked me. No, you do not have to have a midterm. You can if you want. You don't have to have it. Okay. So you're thinking about doing it. Okay. What else? Okay. Turning assignments in for a higher grade. We need to go over this. Have any of you turned something into me and I haven't seen it that was turned in for a higher grade? Okay.
I'm not sure mine says submitted for grade.
Well, I know, but if you're submitting something for a higher grade, you need to send it to me via email. Okay? And you have to write GDP 110, resubmission, okay? The rule of thumb is that you turn it into me before, what did we decide? Week 14, the Friday of week 14. So that's next week. So if I have kicked back something to you that you turn it on time and you're not happy with your grade and it's below a 90, redo it, okay? Because that's an opportunity for you to get your grade up. Mm-hmm.
For this last project that we had due, the 2-page layout,
Yeah,
you know how like we had that opportunity to like
redo it, yeah.
Do we have to, like I somehow like got lost on my computer, like the actual thing that I turned into you, like the digital part, do I have to like actually put the stuff that we're gonna go over today like in that thing that I sent you? Does that make sense?
Oh, so you are resubmitting just the final but not the full narration?
Yeah, like I went back like on my computer and somehow it all got deleted. Like
Yeah, I would like you to resubmit it all at once. So what you can do is you can download what you submitted
and then edit it.
and then just add the new finals to the end of it.
Okay. Is that gonna be good? Is that like due today?
You can do it later.
Okay.
So Riley and Claudia, since you guys weren't here last week, there was an issue with the due date for the 2-page layout, and so some students were confused. Riley, I know you alerted me to it. So we did a critique in class, but then I was letting everybody turn it in today. Okay. Let's see.
Do you know where a good place to print,
A place to print
like for a nice, good quality paper, like for a portfolio?
for your portfolio. Yeah. So if you are interested in printing, you know, like what did I've said, Bill's Coffee Shop is good. You know, Staples is okay, or there's Office Depot. There's also Kinko's. Those are like your least expensive options for printing. Alternative Printing does a nice job. I don't know if they really, like how many one-offs they do, but that might be a cool thing. It depends on where you live, if it's close to you, how much you want to spend. You can send a quote, but I want you to think about how you're going to bind it. So this is an example of a way you can do a binding, okay, where you have a plastic cover and a spiral bind and a back cover. It's okay. It's not like the most creative. Start thinking now. If you want to do a printed portfolio, you really have to start thinking now, because you have to think about your vision for binding it, what your cover is going to look like, how you plan on printing the pages. Okay, if you send me something where it's not front and back printed pages like this, but maybe you have loose sheets of paper, or one side is always blank, that is not a well thought out portfolio. You have to think about what the reader is going to be experiencing. I don't know whose this is, but this might be a good example to pass around, because this is a student portfolio. It's clean. There's a lot of margins. You can see that this is a process book, so this is really about the process, but I'll pass it around so you guys can look at it. I don't know whose it was just sitting up here, but it's Erica's. Thank you. But I didn't bring it in, that's the point. Any other questions about anything?
Are all the assignments graded already,
Are old assignments graded?
yeah, the ones we haven't submitted? For submission, graded, or,
I'm sorry, say that again. For what?
because I'm missing one, but I don't know if you haven't graded yet.
What assignment was it?
It was the creating texture?
I haven't graded yours yet. That should have been graded. Did you resubmit it? Does it have everything it needed? Did I leave you a note? We can talk about it later. We'll look at it. Because I should be caught up with everything up until the 2-page layout and now the animation. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. I want you guys to stay on track. So if you have any questions about anything, if you have concerns, let's talk during lab time, and then we can make sure everybody's doing good. Okay. All right. So today we're going to do a quick lecture on proportion and scale. These are two elements of design that we talk about a lot in this class, actually, but we haven't really had a lecture on it. So think of proportion as the size relationship of the parts of the whole, if that makes sense. So think of it as, what is like a classic thing to think about when you think of proportion? It's like the human body. Is it proportional? So you think about the proportions within the whole piece. Are the arms proportional to the torso? Things like that, okay? And it's compared to each other within the whole, okay? And then when you think of scale as the size of items as individual items or objects in comparison to one another. So human body is a good example of proportion. And then when you think of scale, this little that door is freaky when it does that. This graphic right here is a good example. You have a huge scale of a cherry and this tiny little logo. Okay, and you can see how when you have a lot of contrast or difference in the scale of two items in a design, it creates a lot of visual interest. Hi, John.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. And the same thing with proportion. If you have something that is of a proportion that is, much different than something else within the whole, it also creates a lot of visual interest. So you can kind of think of this example here of this painting. These are items within the room. They're the parts that make up a room. But when you start to mess with the proportions of everything, it creates visual interest. Okay? So when you understand and manipulate scale in a way that lends a lot of variety to a composition, that helps add more visual interest. Okay? It can add the sense of dynamic relationship and positive tension between the shapes and the forms of the other elements. And the manipulation of scale can create the illusion of three-dimensional space. Okay, so if you have something that's in the foreground of your piece and it's quite large, you can assume it's closer to the viewer and how they're seeing it, and like have a cloud that's really, really tiny, right? So those kind of things, how you manipulate scale can help create that illusion of three-dimensional space. In general, we best understand the size of visual elements in relation to other visual elements, whether they are recognizable or non-representational. So we're always comparing what the size is. So when you see something, when you have a comb that's as big as a bed or an armoire, it starts to catch your eye. It creates more visual interest and makes it more exciting. So in the world of design, you also have harmony. And we talk about the importance of pieces kind of working together, or elements also within a design. So you guys are going to be creating an example of harmony when you do your portfolios. You want to have an agreement within a composition where the elements come together in a way that is agreeable, or they work together. You know, you want that harmony. So all of your pages of your portfolio should come together in a way that has harmony. Your fonts should tie in. You know, I told you guys about a student who did a lot of yoga themed work throughout the semester. So she tied it together in a book that had this yoga theme running through, and she found a font that had bodies that were in different yoga poses, and she was able to pull those and play with them. Okay. So the importance of visual contrast. So when you have visual elements in a piece that are contrasting in any way, in size, in texture, what it does is it helps to emphasize the differences, and it creates some excitement. You know, you could have contrast in color, texture, shape, line, all these different things, scale, proportion. In visual communication, contrast is the difference in visual properties that make shapes, forms, or image elements, including color and texture, distinguishable from other shapes, forms, or images from the background. So remember when we did our texture assignment, and I told you guys, if you have a really, really busy foreground, make sure your background is a little bit more subdued, so you don't have too much competition, the eye doesn't know where to go. Okay, so it's a balancing act between the contrast and the visual hierarchy. Manipulation of scale is an important contributing factor in adding visual contrast to a composition, bringing to a design crucial visual interest or dynamic effects. So here's an example of how scale can be utilized in this banner ad right here. You have this huge, huge, huge mouth that is extending past the boundaries of the format with this little teeny tiny road sign that's down the throat. Okay, so that gives you that illusion of 3D space. It creates visual interest. The placement is interesting, and it catches your eye. You want to read what's happening, okay? Large visual elements in a small format can make the format feel or appear larger than it is. Okay? Many small visual elements in a small format might make the format seem smaller than it is. Also, if you were to have a bunch of little elements that were inside of a small format like this banner ad, you know, it could be making it harder to read. You might have not a really good utilization of space. Maybe you don't have anything cropping off, and that's not really creating very much visual interest. A large visual or letter form on a business card might seem much smaller on a poster. So think about how the format affects whatever it is that you're designing. Great contrast and scale within a given format might increase the illusion of depth, and this is a good example. Okay. So this Death Cab for Cutie poster is a nice example of various effects utilizing scale and contrast to create visual interest. Okay, so you have a lot of negative space, you have texture, you have the scale of the letter forms. Okay, they're not all uniform, that creates visual interest. The figure is being trimmed off the edge, okay, that too helps create that. So there's ways that you can create this contrast and visual interest utilizing all of these elements that we've been learning in class. Do you guys have any questions about scale or proportion? I think we've been talking about it because I think it's a quick and fun way to push past the boundaries of most design as getting you guys comfortable with like moving things past that comfort zone, and it instantly can create more visual interest. And we've talked about that in class a lot. Okay, so your next assignment is telling a story with line. So let's start by showing you one.
This is the design that you say we should be prepared for working ball.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a
What?
Is this a gift?
I think it might be, yeah. It actually might be, well, it's an HTML, so it might be a Swift, but it could be exported. It was probably made in Photoshop and then exported.
If you right-click on the image, it should. It's a
Flash.
Swift.
Yeah.
Which we don't need to make anymore.
I know that's really cool, that extension that you sent. Yeah. Okay, so here's another example, and this has interactivity built in. Okay, so those are a couple examples to start. So the idea for this story is that you're going to be creating a visual story, okay, that utilizes line and a linear storytelling fashion, okay, so beginning, middle, and end. And I want you guys to take inspiration from everything around you before you start, and think about the things that you love to do. Think about lines that you see on a daily basis, right? And you're going to start by sitting down and with your camera, take some pictures, look online, and start to gather inspiration for line. So when you think about line and you think about like a linear storytelling, there's a lot of things that you can do, okay? So the student who did the raindrop, they started to think about a storytelling from top to bottom, which is an interesting way to think about it, right? And then if you have the tomato story, you think about the linear storytelling of a seed that grows to be a plant that grows to be a tomato and that kind of story. But then you can also see that there was,
That was the other sentence.
shh, pay attention, Liam, okay? You can see that they utilize this idea of line drawing within their story as well, okay? So for inspiration, read the links and the lectures and everything that's in here. But you're going to walk through an urban or natural environment on a sunny or cloudy day, take your camera or your sketchbook, take some pictures, and start to like look at lines in the environment. And, you know, start to kind of make a collection of interesting and engaging lines. And then that can inspire you to think about your story, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to create a storyboard. And this is required as a part of the project because I need you guys to think about how the story is going to play out. Because it becomes much more complicated when you have to create individual illustrations or you have to create visual graphics for each page. And like if you don't sketch it out to start with, you might miss a step in that process and it will throw it for a loop, okay? So storytelling is a difficult task sometimes because you have to think about all of the details that help bring it together. So storyboarding is literally where you are creating a story with visual graphic boards and sketches like thumbnails. But next to these thumbnails, you usually create some sort of notations that help you to visualize the scene. Boarding is used for animations, it's used for movies, commercials, all kinds of stuff. I storyboard and send stuff to videographers, and I say, okay, this is how we want things to tie together, okay? It's a good skill to have, and it's something that most people who do any sort of art direction or creative work with video will have to know how to do, okay? And this little storyboard right here is actually showcasing some fun scale. Okay, so zoom in of the eye, fade up on the eye, pupil dilates, camera slowly dollies back as the creature looks around, blinks, then moves out of frame. Okay, so you guys are going to think about how things are going to move, how you're going to apply animations, and how you're going to have people interact to move throughout your story. Okay, so here are other examples. Okay. Your story will be sketched out page by page in thumbnails. And remember, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And consider what image and what graphics will tell that story without words. Once you have planned your story, you're going to consider how you're going to add interactivity to it. Okay? So here is this white paper PDF on a bunch of interactive documents for InDesign. So if you need help with any of that, there's a bunch there. I also have a bunch of other things that I can share with you guys. But interactivity. We all learned how to apply an animation to using the Andy Warhol assignment. We learned how to make a button that clicks through a multi-object state. You can also use a button to create, to jump to a new page in a document. And I'm going to show you guys that tonight. So I can show you how to do that and you feel confident. This example here with the tomatoes, these are buttons that they click to a new page in the document. Okay. These are animations that are applied to little illustrations that they probably imported from Illustrator. This page here, this background, was a constant on every single page. So likely they created something called a master page, or they just copied each page and made sure that was there. Okay. Again, animation. They applied one of the animation settings to these different raindrops. Click a button. That makes two more graphics appear. We figured that out, right, with Andy Warhol. That's a grow animation in InDesign. That's a swivel and a shrink. That's probably two different animations applied. That's a graphic that appears and disappears or moves on a path, probably. Again, grow and or fade. Okay. And we can go over all of this. So you have to think about what buttons you need to create to move the viewer through the story, through the different scenes, what the different scenes are going to do. To create a long, to create a long animation that continues like this raindrop one, you don't want to do it in InDesign. If you want to create one long animation, if you have Flash skills, you're welcome to utilize that, or you can utilize the animated GIF component in Photoshop. The reason why is that it becomes really, really clunky to move through scenes and to move animations seamlessly in InDesign. It is not an animation software, so I do not recommend that. Think about how you will create the multiple pages, how you're going to export it. Will the animations occur consecutively so the story plays before the viewer's eyes? Or again, do you want it to be interactive? Will you add music or an MP3 file to create a mood? You will need access to interactive tutorial links, which is a link right here. And it's a bunch of different tutorials, okay, that you can follow. When the viewer opens your story, be sure that they know how to interact with it. So if they open it up and they're like, well, what do I click on? then that's the end of their interaction with your story. Make sure stuff looks like you can click on it. Okay? You guys know how to all make a circle or a square in InDesign, right? Okay. And then there's a way to apply an effect, so you can add a little bit of a drop shadow, or you can create an emboss, and that makes it automatically look more clickable and more 3D. We all have the visual understanding that a line under bold text or text that's different color looks like a link. Okay, so you can utilize tricks like that you see on the web. And then make sure they know how to open it, how to interact with it, even through your instructions, or set your story to play on page load. The tomato, for instance, it tells you what you need to click. The raindrop story, upon page load, it just starts. Okay. When you created the story, remember to include compelling title page. So think of something that's going to bring somebody in if you're going to have them interact with it. So there's all kinds of links here for you guys to look at. You can do this story any way you like. Those are just two student examples. I want you guys to take inspiration from outside, from the web, whatever, to create your story. You can also do this in print if you're interested. So here's an example of a giant poster utilizing line. Think about how maybe you would tell a story on a huge poster, and maybe the eye follows through in a printed way. Maybe it's a book, okay? Maybe it's an accordion fold story, and each page the line goes off, and on the next page the line continues and it's telling the story as it goes, and people flip through it that way. Okay. Yes, Lydia?
Can it be a poem?
Say that again?
Can it be a poem?
A poem? Yeah, it could be a poem. Mm-hmm. But it has to tie into that idea of line, okay? And how are you going to incorporate that? Okay. So here's a fun one I'll show you guys. So it tells you click anywhere to continue.
One line could change the sound completely. Lines can express different emotions. Chaotic,
We should stop the
peaceful,
recording.
Why?
scary,
Student work.
Always
harmonious.
Okay.
Lines can separate or unite. Lead your eye or stub it. With lines, you can make patterns or create shapes. Complicated lines can even make figures. Lines can imitate falling or rising. They can go by very slow or really fast. Without lines, there are no grids and layouts, no order or structure. Lines really are crucial for a design.
So that's a totally different kind of story to tell.
That's amazing. That was really
That
good.
was all done in InDesign. Okay? So that's why the thinking about your story, storyboarding it out, is incredibly crucial. Okay? It doesn't have to be really complicated. This is another one. It has country music. So I have to turn it down at some point. No offense to anybody who likes country. Caesar! Okay.
I think we gotta stop the recording on this one for sure.
It's
Don't.
student work.
The music is?
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, it isn't. They'll
Here.
get us for it.
Shh, John. Party pooper. Okay, so you can see how the animation goes for a short period of time, and then you can click through to the next until it stops. The other thing that you have to think about is, do you want to force somebody to sit and watch an entire animation, or do you want to give them the opportunity to click through? I always recommend you give them the opportunity, especially if it's a long animation. Okay? But this, yeah. This was done in InDesign. So you can get complicated with it. It's really hard to do a fluid animations with the changing of the scenes. So that's why you have to be careful with how you want to do it. So these were all illustrations that were probably done in Illustrator and then placed as objects on different pages in InDesign with the animations added. and then the buttons take you to the next page. Okay. There's also music that's been added via the media panel in InDesign. So this story with line, it's like this riff on a fishing in the line, right? And then it's this linear story of you go fishing with your dad, you fish, you get the, and it's this whole beginning, middle, and end. Okay? Yeah, they get the fish. Okay. So you guys can execute your story by hand and then scan those pages in. Okay. Or you can think about different ways that you want to create it, utilizing photography or whatever it is that you want to do. But again, I'm always pushing you guys to create something on your own. The amount of time that it takes you to create an illustration, think of it as an investment in your portfolio for future use. So if you guys are spending a lot of time creating Muhammad Ali as an illustration, then you can use that again in the future. Maybe your poster design is just one iteration of a design that you utilize that for. Okay? So think of it as an investment when you spend the time to make a graphic. You can take your photographs and render a video from your stills in Photoshop and place the media in InDesign. Okay, this will render a .mov file, and it can be placed in InDesign using the media panel, okay, to create interactivity. So these are things that I want you guys to think about. If you want to create a video, place it in InDesign, you can do that. This one is kind of crazy. I'll show you this one. Oh no. It's the fish one is still going. This one like cracks me up for some reason. It's like a cyborg deer now. Okay, do you guys have any questions about this? Yes.
If you like make it as a GIF like we were in the last assignment, is there a certain limit for how long GIFs can be?
No,
No, they can go for.
they can go for a long time.
Okay.
But the more frames you do and the more complicated it becomes, it's a lot of steps.
It might bog down the browser.
It might, yeah, it might. But I think
It might do what?
bog down the browser and make it just run slow. But I imagine that you will get so burnt out before you reach that point with creating frames that it will never get to that because it would just be such a large file. Questions about story with line? Interactivity. Okay, everybody stand up for a second. Let's all stand up, okay? Everybody stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Okay, we're all gonna stretch, okay? Everybody's like so tired today. Stretch. Come on. Feels so good. Stretch. Oh my god. All right. That feel good? Sit back down. Everybody's like melting. I'm gonna get into the next phase of this lecture here with the assignment, which is me showing you how to do it, and that gets even more boring, I think. So just hang in there, all right? Semester's almost over.
Hey, this stuff's exciting. It's not boring.
I'm excited about it. Are you, John?
Yes, I am.
Yes. I love this crap. It's true. It's the truth. Okay, let's see. That stretch felt awesome. Okay, we're gonna let this open for a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys how you can create those different things in InDesign, utilizing the interactivity to create, you know, what we were just looking at. So I'm going to change this to digital publishing. Okay. And I'm going to set up a new file here because I think it's just better if I show you from scratch. So I'm going to set up a new document, and maybe I want my story with line to be letter size, maybe I want it to be square, I don't know, let's do 11 by 11 inch square. So if it's interactive, you have to think it's going to be viewed on a web browser. So maybe a square sucks. Maybe we really want to do, let's do 17 inches. Let's see what happens. Okay.
Do you want digital publishing or do you want interactive for PDF?
Oh yeah, I think you're, well, it has animation, timing, media, object states, buttons, and forms. And it has pages. This is fine. Digital publishing. Well, if you go to interactive for PDF, you get some of the same things, but you don't get the animation because you can't, it's not supported.
And I thought it was the other way around.
Because the digital publishing, you're actually not publishing it to an interactive PDF, you're publishing it to,
Folio.
yeah, or Swift or whatever. Okay, so this is your story with line. Maybe that we're going to play around with the idea of that story is kind of moving off the background. We have a line that moves off. So I'm going to create a line using my pencil tool. All right, I'm going to apply a stroke to it. Oops. And we want to give our story with line a title. Pick a random font. I'm going to center it. I'm going to center it on my page. Okay, here's my, we're starting off, okay? Then what you want to do is you want to create buttons that are going to click through to different pages. So then you can start putting animations and make this story move through different pages. So the way you want to do that is you want to create usually a button that will take somebody home, back to the beginning of the story in case they want to go back. And you want to create a button that will move people forward in the pages. Instead of doing that, I'm going to hold down Alt and click and drag. Okay. So I'm going to take my text tool and I'm going to make this a text box and I'm going to write home. I'm going to use my eyedropper tool. To select my, select my font, and then I'm going to, let's see if this works.
Just use the font tool, yeah.
Okay, just gonna make it too big.
I think it deselected itself.
Well, it worked right. So I selected it, and then I highlighted my text, but it's just so ginormous that it's hiding. So let's reduce this size down. Come on. Shrink my box back down. And I'm going to do Command B, which is the text frame options shortcut. And I'm going to align that to the center of my button. Okay. Text tool again, make this bigger. Text tool, and we're going to say next, and maybe we do a little arrow. Okay, you guys can get as fancy with these as you want. I'm going to select both of these now, and I'm going to apply an effect. Here's a little shortcut here. You can also go Window, effects, okay, either way. And then you can apply a different effect. So I'm going to do just a little bit of drop shadow. Too much is too much. Keep it light. A little bit of drop shadow, and actually let's do bevel and emboss. Hit preview here so you can see now it looks like a button. Okay, I'm going to tone this down to 15%. I don't like it when it looks too embossed. So it gives a hint of button effect. You can also change the type of bevel. Okay. Let's do outer emboss. Okay. All right. Boom, buttons. Just have a little bit more dimensionality so you look like you can click through it. So what I recommend is that you apply your navigation that you've created, your buttons, and any kind of item that you plan on keeping consistent throughout your entire story to what is known as a master page. A master page is a page that is like essentially like a backdrop, and it's a constant page to your pages wherever you assign it. I'm going to turn off facing pages. Okay, so right here is page 1. Here you can see that we have master pages. Because I set this up as a 2-page layout to start, it's going to give this to me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let's create a new master page. Okay, the B master. It's selected. You can see right now I'm on the B master. If I double click on my page 1, I can take these items, okay, I'm going to right click, I'm going to cut, I'm going to double click on the B master, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to paste in place. It will paste it exactly how it was removed from the other page. So you have consistency within pages. This trick is an easy way to paste things without having to move it around and readjust it. Okay, so now you can see here's page 1. See how the buttons are now gone, and page B is up here and it has the buttons, okay? This page 1 has been assigned the A master. When I roll over, it says A master applied, and you can tell because there's a little tiny A at the very top. If I click and drag the B master, I now have assigned the B master to this page. Okay? So anything that you do on the B master will be translated, okay? So what we want to do is double click and go back to our main page, and I'm going to create a new page, page 2, and you can see my buttons automatically popped up. And let's do a page 3. So maybe page 1, I'm going to select my line, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to go to page 2, and I'm going to paste it just so I have a reference of where that line landed. Then I'm going to take my pen tool and create a new line. I'm going to make sure it's stroked and not filled in. Adjust the point size. And maybe I delete that one. Okay. Then I select this one, go to page 3, place it like that. Maybe I apply a different stroke to this, like dots. Okay. And then I'll teach you guys how to go back and add an animation once we do the buttons. Okay, so let's apply some button work to this. Home page. Buttons and forms. Plus sign means you're going to add a new selection. And then we're going to call, actually, hold on, back up. Type button. There we go. On release or tap, I'm going to do it on click. Plus sign. There we go. You're going to go to page Okay? And we want to go to page 1 of 3. Okay. That looks good. This one, button. Go to next page. All right. Okay. So let's see if this works. Yes.
What about page 3, go to the next page?
Well, I applied it to the master buttons, the master page button. So let's see if it works on the master page.
I think you change it from release or tab to click.
Oh,
on the
okay.
second one.
Let's go back.
I think on page 3, you have to probably go in and tell it to go back to page 1.
Okay, let's play around and see what happens. Okay, so remember, anytime you apply an animation or an interactivity, you have to view it where? What?
Preview.
Preview. Shout it out. Preview. Okay. And that's because this is just how it is. Okay. Something to remember always, because this is going to be a huge pain in your ass. You're going to be like, it's not working. Why isn't it working? And then you're going to cry, and then you're going to email me at midnight, and you're going to cry some more, and then the tequila's not going to help. So then you're going to want to click this button right here. Set preview to the document mode, because you're interacting with more than one page. And when you open it up, it automatically is just set to that one page. So this little button here will just make your life so much better. Okay. So we set to page. I'm going to hit play. It's going to load. Next. Oh, it went. Next. Boom. And then because I made this go to page 1, it automatically goes back to page 1.
Yeah, but next wrong though, right? What happens on page 3 with next?
Nothing. It ends.
But you could,
But you could make it go back home.
to page 1.
But ideally, you would have it end because it's a story with a beginning and a middle and an end. Okay?
Maybe you should gray out the next button on page 3 then.
The story's not done. This is in process. Okay. See how simple this is? Cool, right? Anyone feeling overwhelmed thus far and would like me to re-explain something? Okay. So next, let's figure out how we're going to actually apply an animation to one of these pages. I'm going to double click on page 3 and take us back here. Maybe I want this zaggy line to actually kind of like move onto the page with an animation. So let's figure out how to do that. We're going to go to Animation Panel. And I've selected the object. This could be an object that a photograph that you've placed. This could be an illustration that you've placed in from Illustrator. Okay, there's a lot of options on what you can apply animation to. So let's go ahead and choose a preset, and we want it to fly in from the right. Let's see what that looks like. No, that doesn't make sense. We want it to fly in from the left. Do we want it to move right? I think move right seems good. So when I've applied an animation, there is a little green path that pops up on this item. You can manipulate this path to make the item move with the animation how you'd like. I'm going to use my white arrow tool. And you can see it's a path, just like how we work with in Illustrator. And so you can click and drag and extend that path. So as I move it, it's moving this access point of the graphic away. Okay. Maybe we take black arrow tool and we select this and we move the whole thing off the page. All right. What is the duration? How long do we want this line to take to get across? Let's try 2 seconds. We want it to play once, Speed. Do you want it to ease in, ease out? I don't know. Let's go ahead and say none for now. Properties. Animate from the current appearance. Rotate. Hide until animated or hide after animating. Let's. Can we make it rotate? Yeah, but we're telling a story right now, and it's moving straight.
We'll spin on it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna see hide until animated and see what that looks like. So I'm gonna hit this icon here, which is also the preview window. Okay, let it load.
Nice.
Boom. Except we don't want it to come off the end there, right? No, we don't want that. So let's try that again. I'm going to hit play. How do we fix that?
Should they reduce the length of that line?
Oh, okay. So you can see sometimes you have to mess around. But boom, we're telling a story. The other thing you can do is you can create your own path and apply the animation to it. Now you're gonna have to forgive me because I'm going to need a minute to remember how to do this. But I'm going to remove this animation for a minute. And I'm gonna use my pen tool to create a new path. Not what I wanted to do. So I am going to select both of these. Hold on. Oh wait, hold on. Wait. I think I know. Convert to a motion path. Let's do. John, do you remember how to do this? This button.
Sort of, I don't know. One interesting thing about this is that it is very similar to Adobe Edge Animate.
Mm-hmm.
If you know how to do this, it'll be real easy to pick
To
up
do that,
Edge
and
Animate.
that automatically turns it into an HTML file, right? Or what is it? What does
Yeah.
it turn? Yeah.
Yeah, it turns it into an HTML file.
Okay, so we want it to move right, and then we want to. Sorry guys, I really want to figure this out for you guys, and I haven't done this in a while, so let's figure this out. Path, choose.
You know why you can't figure it out?
Why?
Because you probably would never really use
Because
it.
I haven't used it in a long time.
Nobody would ever use it, so.
But I want my line to move on it. Hold on, let me pause this. We're taking too long. Okay. So you select both objects. Once you do that, then this button appears, okay? And then you can convert it to a motion path. And whatever is on top is the object, or the motion path is what it was saying in that webpage. So let's go ahead and see what happens when I've applied this line. It's gonna make it, it's not gonna move up and down the line like that, but it's gonna move the whole thing in a jagged way. Okay, so let's press play. Whoa!
That's fresh.
Right? That line is like, I'm out of here. Yo, peace. All right, so those are really simple ways to create interaction and buttons to move throughout pages. Claudia.
You can probably like look up a tutorial or something, but is it possible to like make it come out in like the pattern, you know, like the pattern that you have it, to
Mhm.
like draw it out? Is that, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to say, and I'm gonna just put it out there and say no. Yeah, because it's very limited in what you can do with these animations. Yes, John.
Actually, I'll bet that there are 2 or 3 videos of you doing this when you remembered how to do it.
You're probably right. I probably have done this where I'm like,
And if I can dig one up, I will post it.
no, it's embarrassing.
No, it'll be cool.
So Claudia, so if you look at all of the different options for the types of animations, then you can get a feel for what you can do.
I think then like what I'm trying to ask them is like not just in general, because like sometimes you see in websites that type of stuff happen. Is it just
Mhm.
because the website software is different and you can do different things with it?
It really comes down to the coding language of whatever it's built in. So if it's an HTML5 code utilizing JavaScript, you can literally animate anything that way on a web page. We are not working with the code, we're working with these preset options that make it really easy for us with a user interface to select, the what you see is what you get kind of deal, okay? But when it comes to animations, there's other software that you can create. So you can create a Flash animation. You can create motion graphics using what's it called? Adobe product that does motion graphics. Hold on, it won't come to me. And then you can also do the coding where you're actually creating stuff via code. So there's other tools too that John, like he was talking about, the Adobe Animate, which is a new software.
Edge.
Adobe Edge, yeah.
I took the Warhol exercise and I animated it in Edge.
Yeah.
And looked at it on Vicky's iPhone, and it kind of worked.
Yeah.
But I'll post that too.
Okay. Yeah, that's
I'm
cool.
going to make a tutorial on how to do the Warhol exercise in
Using Edge.
Animate.
So there are ways to do it. It's just in this software we have limitations. Okay. If you are interested in animation, there's a lot of, you can take a Flash class, you can take the motion graphics classes that they do through Multimedia Arts and Technology, which I recommend that you guys consider. Motion graphics and video editing software, a lot of people are looking for people with those types of skills. So, I mean, we hire a videographer every week almost at Sansom. And they're incorporating a little bit of motion graphics and video editing and stuff like that. Alien.
Is Dreamweaver used for the animation?
No, not really. Dreamweaver is, have you ever used Dreamweaver before? Dreamweaver is a WYSIWYG platform that allows you to simultaneously code and see what it is that you're coding. It is a way to build websites and edit websites. Yeah, John?
Edge Animate is the Adobe tool to do this kind of thing.
To do this, yeah.
And you could take what you
Edge
made in
Animate.
Animate and then incorporate it into a Dreamweaver site.
If you take the basic, you okay? What's happening? If you take the basic web development class here, you will learn how to use Dreamweaver. So it's like an interim between like just knowing the code and just developing code. Like if you understand code, it's like a whole nother language, and you can literally take a text edit pad and type in code and create something.
So hard.
Yeah.
Another Adobe product is called Adobe Muse.
Mm-hmm.
You can make websites with Adobe Muse without a single line of code.
That's like really intriguing to me. I feel like that's where a lot of software is going to be headed, because people don't have that language skill to go in and create it. But there's always going to be limitations to some extent, depending on what it is that software has given
There
you.
are limitations, yeah.
Yeah.
The beauty of it, though, is that it looks like you're in InDesign a lot. A lot of the
Same features.
A
Yeah.
lot of the features are just like, well, you know how Illustrator is very similar to Photoshop, it's similar to InDesign, and
Right.
these are similar in the same kinds of ways.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I recommend that you guys all take some sort of code or website class. Yeah.
I tried to take 112, which was given code online.
Oh,
Very hard, especially
yeah.
online. I think it just wasn't good for online class.
It's difficult. It really is. The thing is, so, like, I've taken the web design class here, the Matt, I don't know, let's see what it's called. Matt 153, Web Design 1, okay?
That class.
Yeah, and that's a class that is basics, where you learn to incorporate Photoshop, graphics, and code in Dreamweaver to create a website. So you can create a really, really basic page. The problem is you don't learn cascading style sheets, which is like, you probably should know how to do that. And
If you use Muse, though, you can create your website in Photoshop and then use Muse to create a HTML website out of
yeah,
the Photoshop PSD.
no, exactly. Cascading style sheets, think of them as like this underlying code template that lives in the code, but it like references that code to help stylize your site and create the architecture. What's interesting is with HTML, you can use HTML on those various pages to manipulate the page itself. But with cascading style sheets, you can just basically have that dictate how a page is going to lay out. And then you can use a little bit of HTML to make customizations and stuff. That's as much as I know. Yeah, John?
Interestingly enough, InDesign is kind of a browser, and it has JavaScript under the hood, and it has style sheets also.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, most software has some sort of style sheet, right? That's
So
my
with
understanding.
The web design class, do you actually learn basic HTML? Or
Yeah, you'll learn some basic HTML. The other thing that it will do is it will teach you, I don't know because it's been a really long time since I've taken it and there's been a lot of changes. So what it would usually do is you would learn how to design something in Photoshop, and then you would create what are called slices, where you're basically like breaking up that page as graphic elements and placing it into the web page. So you're not using code to create the graphics, but you're using the design that you made in Photoshop, and you're slicing it, and it puts it into this HTML form. And then you learn to incorporate code to create stuff like your body copy, your text, your navigation. So when someone clicks on that slice of your graphic, then that becomes like a button that clicks to like another page of your site. So that's the kind of the difference, and you will automatically be introduced to code because you will see corresponding graphics and code. There's also in Dreamweaver, like they have functionalities where like it will teach you how to turn something into a button or turn a slice into like a specific type of action that you want to some degree. But to me, that was more confusing than actually like just learning how to figure out the code. It really comes down to just like a language, yeah.
If you're really serious, your best course would be to go over to the computer science department, take HTML and webmastering, and then take server-side scripting. And
Yeah.
if you can master those, then all this stuff will fall into place for you. That's really the basis.
Yeah. But that's like, yeah. It's a lot. That's why you see a lot of people who are really good at code and development, and then you don't have a lot of people who are good at that and the design part. That's why like having those two skills together is pretty awesome. There's a guy in town named Will that I worked with for many years, and he could do both, so he was like always busy, and he could charge a lot of money to do something because he could do both. And then like my brother-in-law is not a web developer, he's a developer, and he's a computer science engineer, and he can literally code anything. Like if I told him, can you develop an app that will like scan a wall and tell me the dimensions of every like poster on a wall or something, he could just figure that code out. Okay, but like if I asked him to put it in a user interface that even looked remotely attractive, it would be no, not at all. And I've worked together with him on websites, and it's like, he's like, I don't understand why the button has to be centered. I'm like, because it looks better that way. Ah, stupid. So then our whole business plan kind of went away. Yeah.
Was that
Alright.
your idea?
No,
The small scale.
I just made that up right now. Is that good? Should I write that down?
You just that's really cool.
Like a genius.
Patent that before you steal it.
You know, people, they're curious about wall spaces.
You know what? I had an idea for an app that I never like thought to develop, and it was so when I was an independent contractor, I would drive around a lot, and you have to track your miles because you can write it off, and you want to do that because you don't want to pay up the wazoo with taxes. And so I would track miles in an app, and I would, because it was like easy, I'd always have it with me. But I always wanted it so I could just like automatically track all my driving, where you just like push a button and it tells you all of the different distances automatically. So if you're going to be driving to LA, you start it, put it in your pocket, and then you go, and it will calculate your mileage. I was like, oh, that would be awesome. And then I was like, then I
Those things
just
exist now.
saw it.
Yeah.
I was like, son of a bee. Oh. Okay. Do you guys have any other questions about Story with Line? What do we do? Oh, let me show you this. Media. In the media panel, you can embed a video, and you can embed music. So if you go to place a video or audio file, this little button down here in the bottom right hand corner, you can place a video that way. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know what this MP4 is, but let's see. There are limitations on what type of videos you can place, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but if you guys go to any of those various link that are on the assignment page, you can see like what can be placed. So this is an MP4. Okay, so this is you can see it playing here in this preview panel. This is a lecture that was recorded. So I've placed it here. Then what I can do is I can play it on page load. Well, let me do that. From current frame. So you can choose a poster, which is the image that will preview when someone goes to your page to see an animation. So if you want people to know that it's an animation, you want to make sure that it is a picture of the animation versus just like a blank screen or something. So I'm going to just say from this current frame that's selected, that's going to be the poster image. Do you want it to have a controller? Do you want to have a skin that says like what it is that's going to be playing? So if you have an audio file that you placed, do you want it to have all of the different things? Skin overplay, stop, seek full volume, all that kind of stuff. So let's say skin overplay, and let's go to preview and see if this works. And then if you press play, document mode? Is that the problem? Okay, and then you can see now it's playing. So if I exported this out as a Swift file, then this could play in a web browser. A video within a video within a video. Ah. You can do the same thing with audio files. So if you wanted to have music playing, recommend that if you have music playing, it's not for the entire video, and then it's not country music.
Just can't be for the entire.
You can. It depends on what it is that you're, like if you have that voiceover, like that student that's like lines can be this or be that, that's fine.
Well, it's like a nice but pretty repetitive beat.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. You just want to give the option for somebody to like turn it off. If that's too difficult, then don't worry about it. Yeah.
It can only get louder.
It just gets louder and louder and louder.
It just goes louder.
Can't even X out.
We just developed a video for an event, and I sent it to someone, and they said to me, that music is far too loud. You need to have the videographer turn it down. I was like, are you joking me? Like, turn it down on your volume. It was.
You can set an initial volume.
Sometimes I'm like, how do people like live on a daily basis and
You
like
can set
make
an
their
initial default volume.
yeah, no, I know. It's like, when you're watching a TV and the commercials get really freaking loud and you're like, oh my God. But this was one video that was playing from someone's machine. So it was like, just turn it down. It was like, come on. Yep. Okay. That is all. Any other questions? Let's do a break for half an hour. Then we'll come back and we will look at everybody's extra credit animation. Wait, how many of you did extra credit animation? 1, 2. Caesar, why are you scratching your head? You didn't do it? So 3 extra credit animations. Do you guys want to show them to everybody in class?
Yes.
Mine's pretty lame.
Oh, it is.
We'll be the judge of that.
It literally is like,
No, I doubt it's lame.
it really is.
Liam, did you get it? Did you send me your extra credit animation?
No, not yet.
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about, we'll do some work in this class, okay? For once. Just kidding, joking.